Is there anything about Quentin that you haven't gotten to kind of reveal yet, story-wise?
Um, let's see. I don't think I've specifically gone into detail in any of the episodes about his parents and who they are, what they do, kind of thing.
Are they spies? Are they secretly
Nah,
working for Area 52 in that whole episode? You were like, yeah, I totally
that'd be
know.
hilarious. No, no, his mom works pretty much whatever jobs that she's been able to get to help support the family, and pretty much works all the time. Because his dad is on disability as he's in a wheelchair. And I don't think we've ever really gone into that in any of the episodes. But I think it's the same thing as the whole, he's from a low income family, and the fact that he doesn't really talk about any of that much. So it makes sense why it was never brought up.
Let's say in the season finale, it is revealed that Zordon is not an intergalactic being at all, but is in fact a genie.
His first wish would probably be to allow his dad to have the ability to walk again. Second, for the well-being of, his friends and family and everything, that to have them and himself all live happy lives. Which sounds like a wish that you would really need to word very well. And the third one, for him to have a successful life, both personally, spiritually, and financially in the arts.
Hello, everyone. This is John McDonald, aka Panabon, aka Zordon, coming with you live for me, and Quentin, with another interview for the Becoming Mighty and Morphin podcast, brought to you by the Alternia Archives, brought to you by the Rem Alternus universe of games. And here today I am with Quentin Turner, which, if you've seen the commercials or you're watching this after you're catching up, is our wonderful Yellow Ranger. Hello, Quentin. Or
Hello.
I guess Andrew today.
Yes, thank you.
Going by your real world
happy
name.
to do the interview.
Yeah. It's good to have you. I appreciate you being part of this. I really do think the world is always better with a Yellow Ranger, and specifically with you as Quentin. So what brought you to the Power Ranger tabletop game?
I've been a fan of Power Rangers. I don't think nearly as much as a lot of the other people that are on the show, but I really got into it when I was younger in the 90s. And then when I found out that my brother, Jester, Pat Bryant, would also be in the show, I thought it'd be nice to take the opportunity to actually role play alongside him a little bit.
Yeah, it's really nice to really nice to have you in there. For people that don't know, Jester, if you're watching this out of order, Jester plays Eddie Thatch, the Black Ranger, who, if you watch a streamathon, was on the streamathon. So is this the first time you played with Jester in a role playing game?
Not the first time, but we don't get the chance that often. So we try to take advantage of the moments whenever we can, essentially.
Yeah, it's really cool. So if you could describe Quentin in 3 sentences or less, how would you describe him?
He's a theater kid that comes from a low-income family. He wants to become successful enough at whatever it is he does to help take care of that family. And now he has a group of these new friends that he is starting to consider very much part of his family, that he's hoping to also help out and, help them all continue down their path as Rangers, as well as their path in life, whatever that ends up being.
Yeah. Do you feel like you've gotten to explore Quentin's kind of theater side during the course of the game, or is it something you'd like to do more?
I would definitely like to do more of it, but I feel we have touched on it a decent amount here and there. throughout the show so far, I think it's been like little bits here and there. One of the main things was with in recent episodes with the garage band that he's with, which I kind of, that's still a performance on stage kind of bit, so I kind of throw it in a similar realm. And I think that direction with the character is a very awesome direction.
So you play in Rem Alternus Monday Nights Paranormal Albany. What system is that you use for the Harry Dresden RPG?
That is in the Cortex system, which is also a new one for me once I started taking part in the Dresden game. It's a kind of a universal system that, as I understand it, from a GM standpoint, you would take the system, you can kind of engineer the skeleton of it. It's like the core book for it, I believe, gives you a skeleton for a system, how to kind of put it together, and you can detail that out for whatever you need it to be. And that's what Teslin, the man who runs that game, I believe, essentially did with the Cortex system for Dresden. And I think it works very well. It's very narrative based and simplistic in a satisfying way. You know, it's got enough numbers and mechanics there to kind of ground your characters and whatnot, but definitely leaves a lot of things open for interpretation, which is fun.
So you played in that. I would hazard to guess you played some Shadowrunner D&D probably back in your day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I started role playing when I was about 8 or 9, which was probably pretty young. But I started doing a little bit of D&D back then. It was Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, I believe. And I've played D&D from that edition all the way to the current 5th edition. But other than that, I've played through various editions of Shadowrun, various editions of Exalted, Legend of the Five Rings, various superhero systems from, Prowlers and Paragons, which is also a recording that I'm doing right now, and Mutants and Masterminds through different editions. It's pretty much, once I did D&D for quite a while, since I liked movies and I liked making stories and just the whole process of it, I started branching out into different settings, which also gets you into different systems. And I mean, they're all ridiculously fun. And I haven't really found one yet that I haven't at least had fun playing. So
how are you enjoying the Essence 20 system, which is the system this is built on? Or if you end up in the G.I. Joe, Transformers, or My Little Pony universes, later on, Essence 20 is also kind of working in those. But how does Essence 20 Essence 20 is the name of this particular system for the Power Ranger game.
Okay. I am enjoying it. It's actually similar to another system that I played in, that I'm trying to remember. I can't remember what it was called, but it was one specifically made as a wrestling game, like a professional wrestling game. And in that one, you had like your different moves that you were skilled with, like an arm bar, I'm trying to think of some of the other names, like anything from the top rope or any of those various moves. But the main roll is a D20, and you add to that and you try to, make a certain number. I believe in that one, you roll low is the idea. Like you have to roll under a certain number you have with the D20 and whatnot. But this one is similar to a lot of other systems where you do math, you add the numbers together and you try to beat a certain DC, which, I mean, it works pretty well. I like a lot of the different flavors with powers and traits and everything. So,
do you find the character creation process of creating Quentin was similar for you in the system, or did you have to create your character a different way than you would normally have to?
Let's see. I went into tackling the idea of doing it very similar to how I do pretty much any system, is I try to think of the character first and their story, who I kind of envision them to be, and possibly a little bit of what direction I think I might want to see them go. And then I take a look at the mechanics and try to get there as close as possible. Most of the time, a good amount of systems, because my ideas can be way too creative sometimes, the systems helps kind of rein it in, get it more grounded into the setting like it needs to be, and in a way, it just helps flesh it out to be a better rounded, actual full concept of a character. And that helps change the direction. And I like seeing that evolution. So making the character in this was very similar, just a new system.
So as you've played Quentin, did anything surprise you, come out of left field, that you created a character and they went like left field of where you thought they'd go?
Let's see. I know initially my concept of Quentin was a kid who was probably, short for the class that he's in, not that big of a guy. But he was smart and very, sociably charismatic. And Quentin has a lot of those aspects. But so far, with the way things have kind of developed, he ended up being a lot more dexterous and agile and everything, more so than I initially was thinking, which I think is great because it helps round out him both. So he has has a physical aspect that he can provide, as well as more of like a mental, social kind of aspect to the group, which I think is working out really well for him.
Was that charisma really important to you in creating character? Do you like playing a character with high charisma, or was this like a challenge?
A little bit of a challenge. I like playing characters with high charisma, but I tend to pretty much anytime I go into a new system, I make a very physical character to start with. Depending on the system, I try to go towards them being very tough. Because I've found over the years of doing various role-playing games that if I start off with a very tough character, I can make those beginner mistakes and still have the character survive through them. And then I'll learn the system, with the character essentially.
I mean, except for the times in this one where you like trip and fall.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's also, I'm not playing a tough character in this one. I decided, you know what, it's new, that's fine. I'm going to try to go for, more of a support kind of, thinking guy, charismatic, and then the quickness is just definitely been a boon that has helped him out. So
yeah. You've had a lot of experience with systems. For Essence 20, did you feel there was something that was like really easy to learn, really intuitive for you as a multi-system gamer, I suppose?
Right. I mean, all the abilities and different powers seem to be very straightforward in the way they're described, and I like that. It's specific enough to let you know exactly what you need to do, and not have anything seem ambiguous in interpretation. But they've been open enough to allow you to narratively interpret it however you want. I think the way skills develop with your various traits is one of the things that I'm still trying to get a better handle on. I think I got it down, because it's, when your trait advances, you get to advance a skill in it, and those go up die types and everything. Obviously, if anyone gets to a D12 or above in those skills, we'll learn a whole different aspect of the system, as he's pointed out.
It might break roll 20. You never know.
Right.
Has that been the most difficult thing for you in gameplay, or is there something that's like trying to keep all of your different weapons and your growing powers as you level up?
I think the most difficult part mechanically of it has just been learning the system, and then also learning the way Roll20 presents it as using it.
Yes.
Because I know when you make rolls, it's got a lot of the different macros programmed in, and it seems to work fairly well for the most part.
Yeah.
But it's understanding those questions that it asks you. Like you click on a skill, it tells you, all right, do you have this or that? Do you have specialization? Then you have to pick which die or level it is, and all these various things. And I think I'm getting the handle of it now, but I know initially it was just I don't know how to answer any of these questions, so I would just click through and be like, there it is. There's my roll.
Are
So
you used to
yeah,
the idea of they call it a dice ladder, or I'm calling it a dice ladder, and I made up that
I
term in
think
my
that's
brain.
I think that's a decent term for it too, honestly,
Yeah.
because it makes sense. You go from a D2, D4, D6, and so on and so forth on up. And that definitely works out. I think if I was able to, I might have geared his skills a little differently. But I think that's just mainly getting used to both the system and the Power Rangers setting, how it translates.
Yeah.
Because like a new player going in, even if you're familiar with Power Rangers, I'm not sure if you would immediately think culture would be as important as it is
Yeah,
for
you
the
wouldn't
power
think
grid and
that.
everything, but it makes sense once you're playing the game,
Yeah.
So
Also, I could be doing that completely wrong because I made a choice in how I was doing it. So I could be
hey,
completely
it's working
wrong.
for our game so far. So
It's true. So do you have a skill check that you like rolling more than others?
um let's see. His so far his persuasion, I believe is what it's termed as, is one of his better ones. Um which I thought made a lot of sense for a character that in high school wasn't really in one clique or another one. He kind of just free floated
Yeah.
through. Um,
I
he was
really,
probably
yeah.
still picked on a little bit here and there, but for the most part was able to talk his way through it.
I really like
Yeah,
that in session one, episode two, because we
yeah,
have a session zero.
right, exactly.
I really liked that you approached Brick, who's kind of this jock character, and you
Right,
had that really great conversation on the way to school. And I kept trying to push you two back together for more of that, and it didn't work out like I wanted it to.
right.
Um,
Yeah,
so yeah.
I think that's another reason why I saw the idea of the character as a bit more of a support role, and why I thought a social route was going to be good for him, because if anything, hopefully it would help get the group together and, initially at least keep them together until they all develop their own friendships with each other. Um,
Do you have any
but
different?
I know a lot of the characters just melded real well at the beginning too. So I think we got a great cast of characters.
You're all very nice for us. High
Yeah.
schoolers, you're all very nice.
Yeah, we're all
You
very
really are,
nice,
yeah.
very accepting, and I have a feeling it's because it's a bunch of gamers playing these
Nobody
characters.
wants to rock the boat, so I have to come in as Bulk and Skull and rock the boat for y'all.
Right, yeah.
So what kind of, you talked a little bit about it, what kind of different choices, if you knew what you knew now, is there any different way you would have built or put those initial points into Quentin's character?
I think I might have, as I mentioned with culture, I think I might have bumped that up a bit better, which it can also make sense just for a theater kid kind of background. And I didn't even think about that aspect being applicable. But he has a specialization in sciences, I think is the skill, in physics specifically, because that was, I don't know why, but part of my initial idea of where he's smart in, I was just like, I'm just going to make him, a bit of a science geek that he doesn't really let out too much. But I think the only thing I would change with that is try to pick something that would have come up more often naturally, like either computers or technology, something a little bit more than just like physics, you
Well,
know.
maybe
But
Angel Grove High will do Guys and Dolls for a senior year musical production, and they'll need backstage crew.
right.
Um, yeah,
Hey, why not? He has that persuasion, and I think I've upped his performance so far too, which being in a garage band makes sense.
I told Cecily Angel Grove High does have a madrigal choir. So if that's something that Quentin wanted to do, there is a madrigal.
Nice.
You'll just have been, it's been summer, so you haven't really been in school.
Right.
Except
Yeah.
for when you've been breaking into school, even though it's unlocked most of the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And I know that was one of the initial things of whether or not I wanted him to be a bit of a singer when we were talking about the garage band aspect for him. And I love the idea of playing a singer. Like I've played bards and everything before, and that's super fun. The only thing that I'm a bit reserved about with the idea of that is that I'm not much of a singer myself. Like I'm good enough to trick a game like Rock Band into getting a good enough score, but whether or not everybody else in the room is enjoying what I'm doing is a completely different story.
well, and with a
So
band like Hornet Nest, it's not about necessarily whether you are. Also, the lead singer
yeah,
would probably be like, "Why are you singing over me?" kind of thing.
exactly. And I'm super happy we have an NPC lead singer. Like I'll just be on
It's
the
true.
keyboard or whatever in the background doing my thing. It's cool.
Except for when the zombies attack.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
that
All
was
right.
that was a trip to try to figure out how to deal with.
It was so much fun because I knew it was
Yeah.
coming, but I'd been
Right.
listening to how you responded to things throughout the season to
Right.
make a choice like that for you.
Yeah.
And I was
What
very
tipped you off with zombies for me, I guess?
so the thing that tipped me off with zombies went back to the happiness episode and the
Mm-hmm.
test, and so I have this idea. Um, I had just
Mm-hmm.
watched. There was a movie. The guy that played Glenn on
Yes.
Walking Dead was
Yes.
in a horror movie where it was like a
Mm-hmm.
zombie thing, but it was Rage, and it was set inside an office cubicle. So instead of just
Yes.
going the traditional zombie route, I wanted to do like a mix of the fear of the slow walking zombie and the slow
Mm-hmm.
walk towards your own death.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
I thought it was a lot of fun too, because then everything got to be in black and white and nobody
Yeah.
really knew what was going on. I was
I
having so
thought
much
that was
fun.
a wonderful artistic choice too.
Yeah.
So I rather like black and white movies, so you definitely got that one down. I think what I was mainly surprised about with a lot of the touching on zombies, specifically with me as a player, is for the longest time, my favorite movie was the remake of Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's been pretty much my favorite movie since I was 10 or something.
Oh, I
I
should have
saw it when I
added
was way
in.
too young to see horror movies like that, but
I should have added
um,
in. They're coming to get you,
right.
Quentin. Should have done that.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. It's with all the different movies I've seen, it's really hard to figure out which one's my favorite now. Like, I don't think I'd have an answer if asked because there's so many different ones I like for so many different reasons. But I mean, I guess my first will still always be the remake of Night of the Living Dead. So I'm
Do you
definitely a
have?
zombie horror fan.
So do you have? Well, I can bring in more zombies if you want. Coming into the last few episodes as
Mhm.
reflecting that, I could just zombies everywhere. It's going to be all zombies all the way down.
Right.
And I'm just going to let all the players know that this was you that requested zombies, nothing but zombies.
Right,
I'm
right.
going to start rewriting
My brother
episodes.
would be like, "Yep, that sounds right. That tracks."
So besides the office worker zombie part that Quentin had to deal with in one of the episodes, do you have any other favorite memories or challenges that you went through?
I really liked the office thing because there's a whole office drone thing. I work in administration in real life, so I work in an office most of the time. Uh, and even being someone who still likes that work and seems to be good at that line of work, um, I still very much feel it. Like it is, you wake up, you drag yourself into work, and it's just the same motions over and over. You do feel like a zombie a lot of the times, or at least I do. But yeah, so that initial challenge of coming to grip with the character and their mindset in that situation and then dealing with it on stage as well, I thought was amazing. Um, and then when I initially tried to get onto the, I think truck it was, to get onto the roof, that was another moment
Yes,
where I was just like, okay, no, I should be able to do this.
should be
Based
able
on
to.
flat numbers, chances are on my side, but I roll the way I normally roll in role playing games, and that is poor.
I have to let you
So
know there was a version of that challenge where you two just walked into that school,
yeah,
and like you would have gotten to do a lot of persuasion performance as Quentin as opposed to as a ranger.
yeah, it's
And I was like, when
yeah,
I asked the question, "Are you guys going morphed or not?" Everyone's like, "Yeah, we're going morphed." I'm like, "All right, I guess I'm gonna do this
right,
on the fly."
right.
Um, but there was
Well,
a
yeah,
whole
and it's
other
one of
way into
those.
that school, by the
Oh
way. Like
yeah,
you could have gone full
oh yeah.
performance. Like you
No, it
totally.
was one of those after or rather, I failed multiple times trying to do something that sounded simple on paper. um, I was thinking to myself like, there probably was a much better route, but I've committed myself to this one, so
You
let's keep
definitely
going.
like you at any time you could have
Oh
switched
yeah,
gears, and I'm just like, all right, and now they're on the side of the truck.
right.
I have to
And
make
I
sure they
think
don't die. I have to make sure they don't die. Turn the truck
right.
around.
I think it was also a little bit of the whole like superhero thought going into playing a Power Ranger and the well, when you do Power Ranger things, you do it as a Power Ranger kind of thing. And I do like that as the episodes have gone on, we've gotten used to doing some of those Power Ranger based things still as ourselves
Yeah.
and still not giving away that we're Power Rangers, you know? But I think, yeah, it probably would have been handy if we just did that to begin with too.
There was a whole there was
But
like two
yeah,
pages there. No, it's interesting as
that's
the
the way
G
running a game goes, right?
yeah, as the GM, I attempted throughout the series, as it goes on, to give you places where you could do stuff as Quentin, as opposed to doing everything as the Yellow Ranger. Which
Mhm.
I'm totally fine with you doing everything as the Yellow Ranger, but for me, a part
Yeah.
of it is intertwining the idea of maturing as a person
Hmm.
and being a ranger. So basically, I went like a hybrid Power Ranger Buffy route, where it's that world within a world, and there's
Right.
magic and there's things to do. So it took a while for everybody to catch up because y'all kept wanting to morph and do. I'm like, fine, but I'm
Yeah.
still gonna
Yeah.
have the other options written down.
Yeah. It was, I thought that was pretty funny too, because like the moment we all got our coins, we were just like, yeah, let's morph and fight a big,
Oh, all right.
monster in our, combined uh sword and everything.
I keep trying to
Yeah.
hit that Zordon is not as reliable a narrator as y'all have made him out to be, but
Right.
y'all are
Yeah. Yeah.
really trusting of a floating
And
head in a
oh yeah, and
cannon
like
center.
from what I remember of the show, that's the way I remember him is like it's always a half answer
Yeah.
that he gives you, and it's always a little cryptic. But in a way, I kind of like playing a character that tries to defend that anytime the other Rangers brings it up. Be like, oh no, he knows what he's doing. We just gotta learn and figure out what it is he's saying. It's completely fine.
That is completely
Uh,
fine. All right.
that's been
So
fun.
yeah, so you've also gotten to explore a lot of angel growth, both as a
Hmm.
ranger and as Quentin. Do you have like a favorite place that you have explored? And do you have a place that you would love to explore, both as
Uh,
Quentin and as Andrew?
hmm. I mean, so far the juice bar I thought has been awesome. It was one of those things when you first went into it, I was thinking to myself, like, wait, what is this? I don't. And then as we kept doing it more and more, I was like, oh yeah. No, I know. I think I do remember this from Power Rangers lore and everything.
That juice
Um,
bar, so many things happen at that juice bar. Like
yeah.
calling it a juice bar seems like a misnomer a little bit. They've got
But
like a full obstacle course that they can pull out at any given
yeah.
time. They can put like gym ropes in there. They have a big enough thing for a dance. Like it's so amusing.
Uh, It's the catch-all location. I think that was probably from the production value of the initial TV show, in the sense where it's just like, okay, we need everything to happen on one set.
Well, they also
How are
needed
we going to
like
do that?
they
Yeah,
needed a Saved by the Bell type place too. They needed somewhere
right.
where kids could hang out. They needed their version of the Max, but they also needed to
Yep,
be a place where they didn't have to introduce parents.
exactly.
Which is kind of weird for me that they live in this like, yes, they have parents, but they're also orphans kind of thing.
Yeah,
Because except for the movie, you don't really see parents in Angel Grove much. Like sometimes cliffhangers, but generally they're like peanut parents where they're out of the
right.
picture.
Yeah, where like you hear them being mentioned, but you never even know a name or anything about them. Yeah.
Oh,
Um, but now Ernie's Juice Bar has been pretty awesome. Um, I think if I were to, as a player and as a character, explore any of the other places in Angel Grove, it might be that higher end or higher class high school that was brought up in that one episode.
Angel
Um,
Grove Prep.
yeah, yeah, just because I think that would be interesting. Uh, as a player, part of me, with my initial interaction with that place, kind of want to go back and see if I can do better, so to speak. As a character, I think it would be interesting for someone who comes from a low income family and is in just the general public school, and like that's essentially the lens that he's had his whole life from that end,
Yeah.
to see it from a complete different side, you know, I think would
I
be interesting.
I mean, I built this. If you'd gone into the school like I
Right.
intend you
Yeah.
to, I built it to look like the high end school from the Gilmore Girls, essentially. So it would have been a lot of wood,
Right.
people like in it, but you can
Fine
still go.
craftsmanship.
I
Yeah.
can I can bring the Angel Grove Prep more. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah.
So besides being lower income, being a theater kid,
Hmm.
is there anything that you haven't gotten a chance to let the audience or the other rangers know about Quentin that you were hoping to bring forth?
Yeah. Uh, I don't know if any of them have figured out that he's low income as much as he is. But I also don't know how much any of them really care.
Yeah,
And it was one of those aspects that, as a character, I was trying to play him to where he tries to keep that close to his chest, because he doesn't necessarily want people to, create an impression or, interpret him in the sense of, oh, he's low income or from a family like that or whatnot. He would rather people judge him and get an idea of who he is based on who he actually is. Um,
there is a place
but,
in the game in the
mhm.
rule book where wealth can come into play, but it's kind of like there's also a place in the rule book for people that speak different languages and adding like languages to your.
Oh,
But
okay.
we just haven't really done that because it was just another moving part, and I couldn't figure out how to make it make sense. So if you want to do more low
Right.
income stuff, I can totally bring that in.
Yeah, I have been totally fine with the amount that has happened in game, because it's one of those more subtle aspects of the character, I think.
Yeah.
Like, some of the ways I've tried to bring it in is like in the morning where you're just like, what do you have for breakfast? And be like, I'll just grab a protein bar on the way out the door, or a little
Or a
whatever,
hot dog. I
or
should
yeah,
I should bring
exactly. Or
hot
like
dogs back into the end of it.
yeah, like I keep trying to mention like cheap, you know, kind of meal replacements are more of what he eats generally.
Yeah, I
And
can't
then when he's
remember.
out, he
Yeah,
accepts free food at every chance he can, and all these things. So
I can't
yeah.
remember if you were there for the episode. No, you were. Yeah, you were.
Hmm.
Because we had the episode with the now iconic breakfast, and
Yes.
I think Quentin had feelings about breakfast, but I can't quite remember what they were. So
Yeah, I mean, as a player, I think breakfast is awesome. Um for Quentin, I
we're gonna
think
merge those. If we get a lot of people watching, we're gonna merge breakfast. If I have
right.
anything to do about it.
And I think with Quentin, it's one of those where it's just like he would love to join Brick for breakfast anytime he can, because the way he has it built up in his head is probably like you might see in a cartoon or something, where it's this huge overly sized stack of pancakes and, you know, one platter after another platter of various breakfast foods, which to Quentin, he would just think he's in heaven at that point. He's just like, oh my God, food, this is great.
Let's say you got to write a letter, or you had like 5 minutes on the phone with Quentin. Is there anything that you'd tell them if you could?
Just stay in the fictional world you're in.
Stay in the fictional nightmare world with a witch that lives on the moon.
It's fine.
That says
It's totally better.
It's better. It's better.
You have superheroes in that one. That makes it totally better. No, let's see. Yeah, if I had to have a quick conversation with Quentin as myself, essentially, it would probably be to give him advice in stop trying to do so many different things and focus on more or less one thing a little bit more. Not necessarily saying that's the only thing for him to do, but to further more develop skill and competency in that one area and then tackle the other ones, rather than being all over the place all the time. I think mainly because that's something I've run into in my own life, in the sense where there's so many different creative things I want to do and so many different avenues to take with that I've just gone into every single one of them. But I probably should have myself focused more in one area over the other. But
Quentin is a bit of a Bob Belcher, Bob Burgers character. At the end of the day, which I kind of love, is that you basically modded a Bob Burger character into the Power Rangers, which I love.
No, that's a good similarity you make with those two characters. I never thought about that, but it is there. Yeah. In a way, it kind of allowed me to play some aspects of a character from a completely different system that I never got a chance to play. That's where the Shuko claws come in. When we were trying to think of like what, you know, weapon would be and everything, I was like, oh, it'd be really cool if you had something very similar to cat claws, so to speak, because of being a Yellow Ranger.
I was like, flip through the book.
Right,
oh,
yeah.
Gloves.
And like, it didn't matter to me mechanically, however we figured out the way it worked. Not at all.
Basically, you're still rolling daggers. You're still
right, exactly, and that works perfectly.